everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Thunder Rolls. And I keep making fun of this name because Thunder Rolls just sounds like a bad nickname. But it's about racing game. It's from Richard Launius, who I know loves racing games. So he designed it. Mr. B published this game. And it is a NASCAR-style game in which you are doing things that you might find in other games. I'll talk about that in a bit. It's a racing game where up to 8 players can play. Here's a little bit more about it. In this game, each player is going to get a car, and you're going to get dice that match the color of that car. That is the team you'll be. I'm Team Red, okay? Now, you'll notice these cars. I'm not a huge fan of the cars because the cars are fine. They're these nice white models, and you have stickers that you have to put on them. There's a whole sticker sheet here with different types, the parts to put on the cars. You got numbers. You have different sponsors that you can put on there. Like you could put on this Prince Pete Games if for some reason you want to promote sharks. Now, here's the thing though. It looks okay, right? It feels like the car should have been painted first. Then we'll add the stickers to it, which is what I would do to this. Now, I did get an extra set of cars, and I might do that to them. But all 8 of these cars are in play. So if you are not playing them, then there's going to be AIs, and you could pick easier, harder AIs that will have different special abilities. And they also have a quote in the back. "Out of my way" is Burt Bumper Barker's quote. Whoever wrote the quotes did it in like 10 minutes. But yeah, so you're going to pick your races. You're also going to pick a track. There's 2 different tracks. One is more curvy and does some weird things, and it's a thinner track. The other was a more traditional one. Now, I'm not going to go into full rules details, but essentially the base game is you're racing these cars around this track, and you're trying to get a certain number of laps, and the first person who does so gets a certain amount of points or wins the game. The points only matter if you're going to be doing multiple races. And you are going to be doing so through basically 2 different phases each round. And the first phase has to do with this bottom section of the board. There's these different areas: the pit stop, rubbing is racing, low line, etc. Each one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and underneath them they have these cards. These cards are face up or face down, depending on the spot that they're in. And you want to win these cards because you'll be using these cards in the second part of the race. Now, a player will do this by taking all their dice and rolling them on their turn. So here I rolled 3 5s, 2 4s, 1 2, and 2 6s. I can decide where to place those. So you know what? I might decide to place mine here on the 3 5s. Since no one else has placed any dice there, I'm currently winning that. When I place them there, I get to immediately do the action. This lets me draft to move and pull a car along with me. Now, if I don't like the dice that I just got, that I rolled, I can spend my token, my Team Red, and it says re-roll any number of dice and flip this over. And the only way to get that unflipped is by sending some dice to the pit stop. So going to these different places will give you an immediate benefit. Move to, and players are taking turn. When it's your next turn, red would re-roll the rest of the dice that they have. And so maybe later on, purple places a single 5 here. Well, they're in second place now, but if they would get more 5s than red, then they're just going to go above red, and they're going to be in the best position there, like this. So they put 5 purples there. Now red's in second. And there could be multiple people going for these. Meanwhile, while you're doing this, you're going to be drawing cards for the AI cards, and they're going to be moving, following some kind of just special things based on the car's special ability, and they'll be slowly moving around the track. But that's the first part. When it's over, you'll flip over the cards in each spot, and whoever is in the top spot here will pick one of the 3, then the second gets one, and the third place gets one of these cards also. And some places, if you don't go to the pit stop, you'll also draw a hazard card. And so there's different things that can happen. You're collecting these cards because you're going to be using them in the next race. Each of these cards has a number on it. That's how fast your car will move. They give you some sort of special ability on them. There's flags. We're putting pairs of flags together. We'll let you move bonus spots. Sometimes, though, they will also make you draw a hazard. So if these 3 cards are there, you know I'm taking this one or this one, I'm not taking this one. But sometimes a lot of the higher numbers have hazard symbols on them, so I might take one because I want to go that fast. Once everyone has gotten all their cards that they've won from the different dice spots, you're going to pick which cards you're going to play in different spots. And you may even be forced, if you don't have 4 cards, you may be forced to take a much worse card from a different pile. But otherwise, you put these 4 cards in there. Then in turn order, you start turning these over and playing them. Now, hazard cards are dangerous because they might give you, well, you might crash. After everybody has drafted their cards, for each hazard, and this person has 3, but they might have had more than that, you're going to roll a die, and if you roll any ones, escape that, or you didn't go to the pit stop, you're going to take a hazard card, and each hazard card tells you where it's played. This one's played in the 2nd position, and look at this one is subtracting 2 from my roll. And if I have a red flag on me, it would subtract 3. So you have to be really careful. Hazard cards can really affect you. But once everyone's picked their cards and placed them, hazard cards or not, then again, you go around the table. First person moves 5 using side draft. Next person uses 4, which is clean air. And these all are special abilities that let you move in various ways. Meanwhile, the AI cards are also drawing from a deck and moving quickly around the board. Now, there's more to it than that. I'm not going to go into basically movement is forward or diagonally forward. You're going to be just moving around the board. And if you ever hit another car or push another car, you both roll a die, and you can get some damage if you both roll the same number. But it's pretty basic beyond that. There's not a lot of other rules, but there is things that you can add. You can add weather. You can add... you can make the NPCs harder, the other cars running around. And so there's just all different things going on, but you're just going to keep repeating these phases. You'll have markers here to keep track of the number of laps that you've done, and eventually someone's going to win the race. So I like this game. I want to put that on the onset because there's a few things I want to say about it. I want to talk a little bit about production issues. I already mentioned I didn't really like the stickers on the car thing. I'd almost rather the cars just had been a straight red, yellow, green, blue, whatever the colors are, and then I put stickers on. Because the stickers on the white just doesn't look particularly good. I don't want to have to paint cars though, right? So I'm a little kind of about that. Also, the rule book, not very well written, not very well laid out, and in fact, there's even something on one of the some of the cards, there was a symbol, I couldn't find it anywhere. I had to go look up online to see what it did. Found that to be kind of like, come on now. And I'm not even sure, that every minor thing about, especially how you move the non-player cars works right. So let's jump into the gameplay. The gameplay is broken into 2 parts, really. It's roll dice, place those dice at different spots. And then, once you get the cards, you kind of program how your car is going to move. So it feels like Vegas, or Las Vegas, very popular game, where people was nominated for the Spiel des Jahres, where you roll dice, very similar thing. Not the only game that does that. There are games that do that, but that's that concept of rolling dice. You roll 5 5s. Do I want to take 5, or would I rather put 1 4 out so I can take it that special ability? The more singular dice you put out, the more special abilities you can do, but you may not control anything, and you might get garbage cards for the second half. I like that concept a lot. It works really well. The second half, where then you have these cards with the hazard cards and stuff, and you play them, and then you turn them over one at a time, and you're driving around the car, that also works really well. So the 2 halves come together to make a fun racing game. And the rules for moving the cars and drafting and stuff, I don't find it to be particularly egregious. And a lot of stuff like weather, I'm like, whatever, let's just play normal. That's where I'm at. I don't need all the extra rules. I'm not as keen on the AI cars, especially since you need to run 8 cards. So, oh, turn over this card for this AI car, now this AI car, now this AI car, now this one. That gets old pretty quickly. I almost wish I could just press a button and they would all move automatically. I felt like that upkeep was a little more than I would prefer. And I almost think that if I play this again with 4, I played one game of this with 4, then I'm going to require one to take 2 cars. Because yes, it might be upkeep, keeping your 2 cars separate, but at least we don't have to deal with the AI involvement in the game at that point. And again, it's, there's like a track on the board. There's those tire marks on the board that shows you kind of where the AI cars move and everything. But I just found it to be less than exciting. And I bet you the best version of this game, I haven't played it with 8, but I bet 8 is the best way to play this. So Thunder Rolls is a fun racing game that does things I haven't seen before. The dice placement mechanisms, the special abilities and drafting and stuff comes together in a pretty fun and interesting way. It's just not smooth. It's a little clunky. The game's a little longer than I like it to be. There's a lot of, rules, things, and issues. If you could push all that aside, and having met the designer Richard Launius, he definitely does push all that stuff aside when he plays a game. When he plays a game with you, a racing game like this, you're going to feel like you're actually sitting in the car and smell the oil. It's amazing experience to play with him. And I found that when I mimic that, I'm like, I think the AI car moves, you know what, it moves here. That makes the most sense. Everyone's like, yeah, and we move on. And you do that, and you place dice, and you have a good time, then this is also a really fun experience. But you got to be, if you're here for the, nitpicking over the rules and all that stuff, that's a little bit more of a, I don't know, situation. I also, there's the 6 laps. I would be content playing a 3 or 4 lap game, and I often will do that, just to make it a faster, smoother experience. Once you understand how the game works, you roll dice, it's a cool concept, and it feels different, it feels unique, and the cars are switching places all the time, but you feel like you're making some interesting strategic moves, and yet there's still a little bit of luck factor in what's going to go on. So Thunder Rolls has that a little bit, like I said, it's kind of a clunkier racing game, but it's got heart. And heart sometimes can carry a game into a different level. In this case, it does. This one gets a 7 out of 10 for me because it feels like a racing game. There's so many more strategic and rules honed to a core racing games that feel cold and clinical. This doesn't have that. And for that reason, I would play this one. Also, I do like I said, the dice placement and the cards and all that stuff. Yeah, it probably could have been cleaned up to have been one of the best racing games of all time, and maybe we'll see a second edition someday that will do so. But as it is, I think a lot of people will enjoy it. If you like NASCAR racing at all, I think that this is one that you'll get into. So that's Thunder Rolls. I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.